Get them going!
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Why do I look red? Ugh. Whatever the case may be, welcome to Cross Examinations Live. I'm your host, Mike S. Miller, not a pastor, priest, rabbi, or any of those things where people usually go to get answers for stuff. I'm just a guy on the internet, and for some reason, people are coming to listen to the things I have to say. Why? Why? It's really weird. Hi, Missy. Hey, Tina. Oh, why is my face red? We're watching, how my wife and I watch these a replacement for the romantic comedy is gosh dang it, that light is really bright. I think that's why. Our replacement for the romantic comedy is the romantic reality show that's Love is Blind. The one we're watching, right? Love on the Spectrum. You have to have something you just want to sit down and veg out and enjoy time cuddling with your wife in front of the boob tube. And the one we're watching right now is Married at First Sight, the new season of Married at First Sight, which, by the way, so far seems to be a loser of a season. And then nobody seems to be getting along on this one, at least at the point where I'm at in the series. But so funny. They put two people together that were two just obviously extremely left-wing, and they don't even really talk about their politics much aside from how much they are concerned about their minority culture. Look, I get it. I'm Japanese. I'm very I don't want to use the word proud. I love being Japanese. I love my culture, right? I'm not precious about it. Hell, I'm an Ainu. I'm one of the rarest people groups left on planet Earth is the Ainu, which is the indigenous peoples of Japan. There's 14,000 of us. I'm a highly valued, rare collectible. Sorry, let me put some stuff away. That was not big. And so one of these guys on the show. By the way, my kids are also Chiricahua Apache, and so they're Native American. And I mean, it's great. Love your culture. Freaking dig into your culture and embrace your culture, whatever it may be. If I have multiple cultures, I'm freaking Norwegian. I am Japanese. I'm primarily Japanese, so that's the one I obviously would. Green is annoying me. That's all obviously the one that I identify the most with because I'm the most it. But I also got a quarter Viking in me too, so that's cool. And yeah, my entire history is invaders and people like that. Anyways, interesting. So one of these guys is a Native American. Actually, he's only half Native American, but boy, is he really into that culture. And then the other one is a black lady, and she is just very much about black culture, which I would like to point out there's no black culture. And I know that's a terrible thing to say, because honestly, I think one of the greatest grievances black Americans brought here through slavery have is their separation from their culture, right? Black is not a culture. It's a skin color. Nigerian, Egyptian, Sudanese, Ethiopian. All of these people have particular cultures. You don't say there's white culture. You say there's Norwegian, there's Swedish, there's German, there's French, there's Italian, there's Russian. All of these are different cultures, right? You don't come over here and say, my culture is white. There's no black culture. There's a black experience in America. There's even Southern culture, right? There's Southern culture. A lot of the black experience that you could say might form a culture was derived from Southern culture, which was derived from South English culture, and I mean, it does go back and back. But that to say, these two people were so typically, oh, my culture, that it was doomed from the beginning. They were playing the offended Olympics. Which one of us could be offended more? So this lady, they're just sitting in the bathtub, right? Or in the not the bathtub, in the jacuzzi, and they're talking about, you know, their cultures and stuff. And what was really fun is earlier on the bus ride with the other guys, one of them said, hey, you know, no need to go off the reservation. He wasn't, you know, it's just a common colloquialism, right? It's like, and they like, and he's like, oh, it's okay. I know you didn't mean anything. You're speaking out of your ignorance, which I always hate that, like, I'll forgive you. You're being an ignorant white man. There absolutely lives an African American culture. Okay, explain it to me. I think there's an African American experience. I think there's, but would you say the African American experience, the black culture of South Carolina, is the same black culture of Compton? Because I would posit to you that it is not. It is very much not the same culture, nor the same experience. Well, trust me, if you grew up in most of California, you had a completely different, I mean, throughout at least, you know, 70s, 80s, you had a completely different experience than if you grew up in South Carolina or Mississippi or Hawaii. You know, I grew up in Hawaii. It was pretty nice because they love the blacks out there. They just hate the white people. Yeah, I'm talking about your culture. Your culture is your heritage. It's, you know. And look, if somebody comes here from Nambia, they're not going to be like, I have the black culture. They're going to be like, my culture is Nambia. I am Nambian. I am Nigerian, right? I'm Congo. Congolese? Is it Congolese? Anyways, back to the story. It was hilarious because so he excused the ignorance of the white guy. And then she's like sitting there and they're just having a conversation. And she's like, yeah, I'm talking about this stuff. She's like, and I think he brings up, you know, like how, you know, I forget how it brought it, but she somehow or another, the term redskin got brought up. And she goes, I never even understood what the term redskin was. And he's currently like sunburned, so his face is red. And then she looks at him and goes, oh, I just looked at your face. It was a very honest mistake because, I mean, maybe she's not that bright. He got so offended by it, he could never let it go for the entirety of the rest of their honeymoon, and he wanted a divorce because of it. The I'm Offended Olympics. He is the gold medal champion of the I'm Offended Olympics. I moved a lot growing up. Culture changes within a single state. Exactly. But your historical nationality culture does not change. That's what I'm talking about. State to state, the experience of, hell, any people group, black, white, the culture change. It changes. So there's no black culture. Africa is not a culture. Africa is a continent. There's no Asian culture. Oh, let's lay this on me. There's no Asian culture. There's Japanese culture. There's Korean culture. There's Singaporean culture. There's Taiwanese culture. There's Chinese culture. And hell, in China, there's a bunch of different cultures. So grasp what I am saying. There's no black culture. There's no African culture. It doesn't work. Culture doesn't work like that. Maybe they're just misusing the word, which primarily is what they're doing. So maybe I'm being a little pedantic about it. But if you've watched me at all, I'm pedantic about words. Words have definitions and meanings, and if we don't abide the meanings of words, we cannot communicate intelligibly with one another. Oh my gosh, back to the story. The story is so funny. Oh, what was it? Oh yeah. You know why he was so offended? Do you know why? And he's very affected. He's not gay or anything, but he's got a very, like, he was raised all by women, so he's got a very feminine vibe about him. Do you know why they use the term redskin? Because when the white man came over here, the scalps of Indians were very valuable. So they would go, like, because it was the white men doing the scalping, right? They would go and they would hunt Indians and they would pull their scalps, and when the blood ran down their face, that they would call them redskins. So me, being very pedantic about language, about words, I went and looked up the etymology of redskin. Turns out the earliest communications with Indian tribes in America, you know what the Indians called themselves? It's really weird. They called themselves Redskins. And this is historical record, like early like communications and letters from chiefs and this and that. It's like, we people of the red skin, blah 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 blah, that kind of thing. So the fact that Native Americans today think that redskin is pejorative is based on a complete ignorance of their own history, and the fact that this guy was taught this stupid story that the term derived from being scalped by white people, and this cost him his marriage. Oh my gosh. I was laughing so hard. I was almost in tears. Oh my gosh. Didn't they call white people paleface? Yeah. It's like, look. White people aren't actually white. I hate to break that to everybody. Black people aren't actually black. Red people, yellow people, we from the Orient aren't actually yellow. And Redskins aren't actually red. The only one they got right are the Browns. You know why? Because we're all shades of brown. We're either lighter brown or we're darker brown. We're lighter brown with a little bit more yellow in us, or a little bit more red in us, or a little less brown in us. That's all it is. And to be so precious. So funny. I was crying almost. It's part of the plan, Mike. Confuse the language and make it harder for people to come together, i.e. Tower of Babel. Oh, yeah, so. Let's see. I think Mike is meaning African Americans did not bring their African culture along with them. That's exactly what I said. I think they've created their own U.S. culture, but they haven't. There's no black culture. There is black experience in particular areas, and the black experience changes. That's why I'm saying, it's like, I'm not saying you can't be black and have a culture, but your culture might be like, my culture is Southern. My culture is particular to New Orleans. Trust me, your New Orleans culture for the black person is going to be different from New York culture for the black person. There's no ubiquitous, equalized, relative black experience in America. It depends where you are. I guarantee you Barack Obama's black experience was completely unlike anybody being raised in the Bronx, anybody being raised in Alabama, or Colorado, for that, or Portland. Experience that you won't have a shared experience just because of the color of your skin. And thus you cannot have a shared culture. There's no shared culture of black. There's no shared culture of white. No shared culture of yellow. Hell, I don't think there's a shared culture for red. There's no shared culture for brown. I'll tell you that. The Peruvian culture, the Mayan culture, the the Brazilian culture, that every place has its own culture. everyone on the same page, right? Everybody gets it. All right. Somebody, where did I put it? Channel content. No, I'm on the wrong tab. Here we go. Someone, in response to yesterday's video, someone wrote, science studies evidence. With no evidence for the metaphysical, supernatural, or God, how could science possibly study it? Without evidence for God's existence, it cannot be a candidate explanation for anything. Where would they even start? Okay, you start with the things that are so highly improbable as to be impossible by the rules you've set up via a materialist only scenario. And if the thing is so improbable as to be impossible, your only other explanation must remain outside of materialism, i.e. the metaphysical, i.e. God. When you have a physical reality that says that order does not derive from chaos, you cannot then create a theory that posits that order derives from chaos. Thus, you must entertain the possibility that metaphysical forces, which cannot be studied in the physical only, in the material only realm, have exerted some purpose, order, and design upon the material, thus being evidence for the metaphysical. Okay. Without Lies, Islam Dies responded, the very claim there is no evidence for metaphysical is a metaphysical claim. Do you enjoy living a contradictory existence or what's nonsense machine? All right, let's see. Let me see if anybody else left any comments. Community. No, that's the only one. So, hello, Jonathan. Welcome. The Emperor protects. Wait, what? Yeah, abiogenesis. You just can't. They come up with the dumbest crap. And then they say that, oh no, of course there's this push I've heard recently that like, oh yeah, no, obvious abiogenesis is obviously something they've figured that all out and blah blah blah. It's like, you are so far from ever figuring that out, because abiogenesis again goes completely against the physical laws that govern our universe. There are physical laws. Science must stand upon the physical laws, right? If you can't maintain the laws in your theories, what has to go? The law or the theory? But no, we've built an entire industry on this theory. We've propagated it for 100 years. 150 years. That's a 40K reference, Mike. Oh, sorry. If something is the least probable reason, I will remain more probable than a god. No. Least probable as to be impossible. You would rather believe in the impossible than a god. That's not a rational position. That's an emotional position. Which, fine. But at least realize you're just being an emotional. It will remain. It will remain. Yeah. It's an emotional decision. And I'm fine. Look, I'm fine with people making emotional decisions. It's your life. I can't tell you that you have to be logical. Just don't pretend you are being. That's silly. It is so improbable as to be impossible. Your claim that something can just be so improbable, but it just doesn't quite reach impossible. Why can't you just extend that same favor to the metaphysical or to God? Why? Because it's an emotional claim. You understand? You'd rather believe something so ridiculously impossible by the standards that science sets for itself, and then claim you believe in science, rather than claim you believe in God. That is not rational. That is emotional. Brooklyn Lou, always trying to change the conversation instead of addressing it directly. Built an entire industry? Yes. Christianity is an industry that takes in many billions. Is it also an industry? That's a good question. Is Christianity an industry? What is the definition of an industry? That's what you are. I'm rubber, you're glue. The church is the oldest company. I'm going to look up the functional definition of industry. Industry definition. Because, like I said, pedantic about words. I like to make sure I'm using words right. Industry refers to a group of businesses or organizations that produce or supply goods and services, often categorized by the type of products they create or the services they provide. It encompasses various sectors such as manufacturing, agriculture, and services, and is essential for the economic for economic activity. That's the last part is I'm wondering about, and is essential for economic activity. Ask a follow-up question. What do you mean is essential for economic activity? Oh my gosh. Yeah, sure. Give it a try. I agree. Just go ahead. When we say that industry is essential for economic activity, it means that industries play a crucial role in driving the economy. Oh, well, I think churches fall apart there because the money brought in for churches isn't used for economic growth. It is used for ministry, unless they're being shysters. So a true church, Christianity, falls apart, or it does not fall into the industry category for that purpose, at least for not the entire definition. For most of the definition, I would say it fits, but if you want to be pedantic, and I do, it does not. It's an emotional claim to say you believe in something that has literally no evidence to support a claim. Oh, like abiogenesis? Lou? There you go. Which fits the word industry better, abiogenesis or Christianity? Well, Christianity is closer, but it's not, it doesn't fit the entire definition. Sorry. I don't know what to tell you. It was very close up until I got to that last part of the definition. I was like, oh yeah, it could be an industry. I'm not emotional about it. If it did fit the definition, I wouldn't cry about it. What's wrong with being emotional, Lou? See, that's the thing. They're emotional. Their decision is emotional, but they want to claim their decision is rational when it's not. That's the thing. They're the ones claiming they're being rational and logical, and everything I believe is based on facts and science, except for the stuff that obviously goes against the scientific laws of the universe. We just kind of sweep those under the rug and pretend like they don't matter because there's no God. God is an emotional opinion. Brooklyn Lou does not sound anything like that, by the way. Just me. All right. What else we got going on today, ladies and germs? Nothing, but when you say believing in your particular imaginary concepts, like abiogenesis, are superior to evidence-based science, which abiogenesis is not, you are being hypocritical. I don't think that a belief in God is in competition with a belief in true science, the actual study of the way things work. Again, science has clarified there are certain laws that your silly little theories, which do not actually lay in the true realm of measurable, repeatable scientific method, aka true science, your little theories don't fall within that category. But you've somehow convinced the world that they do when they have nothing to do with repeatability and everything. Abiogenesis is about evidence. You do not know this? Abiogenesis is not about evidence. What do you mean it's about evidence? If it was about evidence, if abiogenesis was science, then they could make it happen. They could create life in the lab. How can something accidentally happen with just bro, have you seen a microchip? Have you seen the stuff we can do at almost a subatomic freaking level in design and creation? You don't think they could have by now created life in a lab? If it were as simple as something that could happen on accident? If it could happen on accident, it could happen through the intelligent design of modern man. That would be science. What you have is a theory with zero basis in reality that goes against the laws of physics. When it comes to evidence and facts, emotions are not needed. Correct. To believe in a God, your experience and feelings are all you have to prove your claim. Incorrect. My belief in God stems from my study of the claims of the Bible. I have found those claims that this is a book that cannot have been derived. I was going to say deriven, but I'm like, I don't think deriven is a word. Derived from the experience of humankind. Most prominently, prophecy. The prophetic cannot exist purely through the material, linear experience of man. Therefore, it has to be metaphysical. Also, I've studied other things like near-death experiences that prove that there is more to this life than the material realm. Metaphysical realm does exist. How? Well, I don't want to go diving into that. To believe in a God, your experiences and feelings are all you have. No, your experiences and feelings are a part of it, and we don't deny that. Experiences and feelings are certainly confirmations to the relationship that you have with God. But my proof, the thing that proved God to me was the Bible itself and studying it before I even read the darn thing. Are you new here? Have you not ever heard my testimony? I was raised agnostic. So, yeah, I had to have the Bible proved to me before I was like, okay. This thing was either written by time-traveling space aliens determined to fool the world into believing in a false Messiah, or it was written by God. And what's that called? Occam's razor? The more rational, if you're not hell-bent on not believing in God, because I was an agnostic, I was not an atheist. God never hurt me, and I didn't get mad at him. So I was coming at this from a very rational, logical, and unbiased direction. I wasn't even like, oh, I hit rock bottom and I was seeking for. No, it wasn't even any of that crap. I loved my life. I was like least likely candidate to have some sort of emotional need for God. I was freaking making money. I had a model for a wife, well, a girlfriend at the time. I was living large. I was freaking good, man. I loved my life. I loved everything about my life. So there was no emotional need. It was just, I was presented with these facts. And as a rational, logical, unbiased viewer of these facts, I came to that conclusion. Well, it's probably not space aliens determined to fool the entire world into believing into it in a Jewish Messiah. So I went with the only other possible option. The Bible's written by the author who claims authorship. That would be God. That's when I believed in God. It was the Bible. It was the proof. That's what moved me. It was not emotional, like those who get mad at God because some prayer didn't go their way. And I don't want to poo-poo this, but it is most atheists. something in their life didn't go their way. Something went horribly, horribly wrong, and I'm sorry that it did, but it kicked your emotion. It was your emotions, maybe not yours particularly. Most of you, certainly Lou's. Something happened to him where it just kicked his emotion into, I refuse to believe in this person because they didn't pull through when I needed them to do what I wanted them to do. And I don't dismiss it. Again, I'm very familiar with grief. But my belief in God was greater than my grief for my family. I didn't let my emotions rule my rational, logical mind. God could have used abiogenesis. That's fair enough, Corpse Grinder. I mean, that is a belief a lot of Christians hold, that God just guided the entire process. But you can't just get there with random material accidents. You can't. And if you want to believe that, that's fine. Even if you're a deist, where you just think God put it all together and then set the ship and then ignored us for the rest of it. Even if you want to believe that at least gives you credibility that life could have started with just chemicals bumping into each other. What do you have against science? Nothing at all. True science. I think true science is invaluable. It's very, very important and invaluable. True science. Joe says, well, let's say that Lou is right and it's all a fraud. If you follow the social guidelines Jesus sets, what wrong is going to come from that? Notice I don't mention the church or any other power structure. Right. Well, he'll say, well, gosh, I can't live with my girlfriend who claims she's a Christian, but she lives with an atheist, so she's not following Jesus either. Abiogenesis is a field of study. It is not something that is definitive. It is all based on evidence. Religion is a belief system and does not look to evidence. It is faith. Abiogenesis is not a faith. Believing in abiogenesis requires a hell of a lot of faith. Lou. A hell of a lot of faith. I'm surprised you weren't raised Buddhist or Shinto. Well, my dad was raised Catholic. And so as a lapsed Catholic, he didn't want us raised with religion. My mom was, or is, Daishonin. Is that Shinto? Daishonin Shinto? Buddhist. She's Daishonin. I'm gonna look it up. I don't know why this word is freaking escaping my mind. Daishonin is who? It's a particular Nichiren Daishonin. That's it. She's a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist. So she was part of the NSA. Like, what's his name? The guy, Patrick Duffy. He's NSA too. So it was a big part of us growing up was her in that community, like her chanting every morning. And, we'd go and sit next to her and chant sometimes, but we just did it because she was doing it. We didn't believe anything. But yeah, so my dad was like, I don't want you guys being influenced by any religion. When you grow up, I want you to just, make up your own minds. And then I became a Christian. He's like, oh, man. It is seeking to decipher truth through looking at evidence. Oh, Lou, is truth the realm of science? I thought facts were the realm of science. Truth is the realm of religion and philosophy. You're confusing your terms. And there's much an abiogenesis simply does not know due to lack of evidence. You know what they know? They know that random molecules bumping up against each other can't create a living cell. I'll simplify it that much. A bunch of molecules bumping into each other, being struck by as much lightning as you want, cannot create a living cell. It's so ludicrous to believe that the idea that anyone does believe that, I'm not going to question your intelligence, Lou, but it's clearly you have hate blinders on, because it's such an incredibly stupid thing to believe that you have to be believing it based purely on emotion. No factual, logical, rational person could believe that random molecules bumping into each other, getting hit by lightning, could create a fully functioning factory known as a living cell. The first building block of life isn't an amino acid. It's a cell. You can't get to survival of the fittest until you have something that is alive. The first alive thing is not an amino acid. It's a cell. Was your wife agnostic then too? No, she was what I'd call a cultural Christian. She did the things. Actually, she didn't even do all the things. She was not a very good Christian. She was a cultural Christian, like Lou's girlfriend, right? She'd sleep with a agnostic, have an agnostic boyfriend, do things that were very, very much not Christian with him. Yeah, no, she didn't get saved till after we were married. I just didn't realize she wasn't a Christian until after she truly got saved. The Bible is not evidence. You're completely wrong. You can't use the Bible to prove the Bible. You're completely wrong. Prophecy cannot be confirmed. You're completely wrong. The Bible does not say any prophecies were fulfilled. Now you're arguing to prove the Bible with the Bible. The Bible does say prophecies were fulfilled. Every single statement you made is completely wrong, Darkness. Where's your proof of metaphysics? I mean, just start with, okay, let's start with this, Darkness. Have you ever been thinking of a song and someone else starts singing it? I'm pretty sure that happens to everybody, right? Have you ever had that feeling that someone is staring at you and you turn around and someone's staring at you? Have you ever had deja vu? I'm trying to do the most basic, simple, ubiquitous experiences that people have that have no explanation in the material physical, right? Have you ever had a gut feeling about something? These are just the very basic, simple things that prove we are more than material physical, right? Moving on higher than that, have you ever looked into near-death experiences and heard the testimonies of people, and they are many, of people who have had experiences, not just the heaven and hell experiences, which is one thing that, cannot be proven. There shared experiences by many, many people, but you can't prove it. What you can prove is when these people come back and they say, my spirit was floating around, or whatever, however you want to say it, and I went into the other wing of the hospital and I was listening to your conversation while I was dead on the operating table. You can't explain that through the material physical, which by definition is proof of the metaphysical. Look, I don't care if somebody's an agnostic. I don't care. I mean, I care. I want everyone to be saved, but the materialist atheist perspective ignores, just, you put blinders on to ignore so much of life. I mean, no, I'm not saying you are, but I mean, they'll go so far as to say is that love is nothing more than a chemical reaction in your brain. Tell that to your children. Everything you said is wrong, dude. Mike, heathen confirmed. It's okay, Mike. Most are lost at some point. Oh yeah, I was told. I was living the godless life, and look, it's a lot of fun. It's completely meaningless, without purpose, and hedonistic, but it's a lot of fun. Religions claim they know things without good evidence every single day. It is what religion is. Why are you so angry, Blue? Such as well. Again, my belief stems from the Bible proving itself to be trustworthy. Prove that anything you say is trustworthy, Lou. I believe that science itself, justice for Allah, is also based upon a higher understanding than it can produce or rely on 100%. I believe that science itself is also based upon a higher understanding than it can produce or rely on 100%. That's an interesting statement. I think that if this is what you mean, the ideal of science is greater than the human, the imperfect reason of human can achieve. Is that kind of what you're saying? Because we all have foibles. We all have personal motivation. We all have emotions, right, Lou? That drive our decisions and drive our perceptions. All right. If you're a guy who sits there and you base your entire life on science and logic and principles of that extent, and then you sit there and you say, yes, molecules, if you bang molecules together enough and strike them with lightning, they will create the complexity of the first functional cell. Then clearly your logic has left the building and you're making emotional claims. You're making claims and believing in them, not based on logic, but on emotion. Occam's razor says that the simplest solution is usually correct, or the simplest solution is usually the best starting point to investigate. There you go. So it is. It's Occam's razor. The Bible is written by God. How can you say God answers prayers? Well, sometimes the answer to a prayer is no, right? God's not Amazon. You don't just plug in an order and expect it the next day. So sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is you ask amiss. Sometimes the answer is hold your horses. And sometimes he answers them right away. He's not a push button machine. Why would a God, okay, I just starting with why, the whys. Before I read the rest of it, I'm not even looking at it. Before I read the rest of it, I likely won't be able to answer a question that starts with why would God? Generally speaking, those are unanswerables. But let's see what they say. Why would a God be worrying about trivial requests when there are bigger problems it should be dealing with? Why? Well, I mean, again, I can't answer that completely, but as far as I could answer, I would say that if you're omnipotent, all powerful, and omniscient, all knowing, then, I mean, everything is trivial to you. So the level of triviality is, I'm not going to say everything is trivial. I'm saying everything trivial as in by scale. It's like an earthquake is as big a deal to you as, trying to find your DS. Oh gosh, that was an amazing answer to prayer. All right, so I'm going to tell you this story because God does answer prayer. And my agnostic brother and his agnostic family witnessed this. It was crazy. So my brother and his family were here one time, and they live in Portland, and they had to leave, right? And they're like, but was it Kai or Cruz? I think Kai couldn't find he's my oldest nephew. I think Kai couldn't find his DS. And so we're just tearing the freaking house apart looking for his DS because he didn't want to leave without it. And we're doing this for like 45 minutes or something, maybe an hour, just looking everywhere for this thing. And finally, you know what? I just sat down in the hallway. And I'm like, and I just prayed. I was like, Lord, guide me to this DS. And I kid you not, all my agnostic family on the other side witnessed this happen. I kept my eyes closed. I stood up and I put my hand on either side of the hallway. Right. And I just walked down the hallway. And then I got to my daughter's room and I felt to go right. So I went right. And again, my eyes were closed this entire time. I didn't even know if I was going to step on a nail. And I turned right and I just, put out my hand and I walked and I took steps and I took steps and I just leaned over and put my hand. My daughter had a chair and it was covered in stuffed animals. And I put my hand in the chair of stuffed animals and I pushed my hand into the chair of stuffed animals and I wrapped my hand around my nephew's DS. And I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe that worked. I got freaking hair. Well, I know you can't see my hairs because I'm a Japanese, but my hairs are standing on and remembering this. It was like the most amazing, like trivial answer to prayer because my whole family witnessed it and we'd been looking for this thing for 45 minutes or an hour. And I found it with my eyes closed because I asked God to guide me to them. That was an irrefutable answer to prayer. And you can say I'm lying because you don't want to believe it. But if you know my character, you know I don't lie. And I wouldn't lie about something like this. So why? Why does he? Don't know. But he does. Aliens are a different race. So abiogenesis is fake science and creationism is true science. I wouldn't say creationism is science. Again, origins does not fall into the purview of the scientific method. We cannot recreate the earth. We cannot recreate mankind. We cannot recreate. There's no reproducible test for history. I understand that. Why can't you comprehend that? Nobody believes in abiogenesis. You do, Lou. You do. Someone praying for their child with cancer is denied, but Jesus finds time to help the local sports team win and Beyonce to win the best country album. I don't know why they would lose faith. Look, I'm going back to my family. My nephew, Cruz, Kai's brother, he got run over by a tractor in a freak accident. And look, I prayed and prayed and prayed for him to live. He's 14 years old. I get it. I get the freaking grief that could lead someone to say, why God? Why would you let me find a freaking toy, but you won't save my nephew? I get it. But God is greater. His ways are not our ways. I get it. And I get that people who don't have strong enough faith would abandon God because of it. I get it. And that's why I feel for all of the atheists who have had that kind of grief and turned. I get it. Don't think I don't. You know, I totally do. I totally do. Yeah, it was long. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. It was hard. It was very hard. Did a God answer me when I wanted really bad to get a good result after my last surgery, and I did? Was it God involved in this? Come on, man. I don't know. I don't know, Lou. You might be the prodigal son, and God is keeping you alive until you turn back to him. And you know what's sad? I mean, this is what happened to my dad. Because my dad rejected God when he was like 16 years old, and then lived his entire life as an agnostic, and then accepted Christ. and I'll say God beat him up. God let a lot of bad stuff happen to my dad. I don't have time because we're almost at the end here. I'm not even going to get to the Bible today. I'm sorry, guys. And it was right when he returned to God that God took him. It wasn't even like he's in the hospital. He's on his deathbed, so he's crying out to God. He called my aunt and told her, Mike got to me. I had given him some books, and he had read them. This is the one thing he did, because he had already had 2 major strokes. But he would still watch TV, and he would still read books. And I gave him some books, and he actually read them. And he's like, he was talking to his aunt, or my aunt, his sister. And he's like, Mike got to me. I get it now. What What do I have to do to get right with God? I want to get right with God. I want to, and so she used to be a nun, former nun. So she kind of just told him, you don't need a priest. Just go to God, repent, blah blah blah. I guess she walked him into the kingdom, and it was either that night or the next day he had this massive attack. Um he had what's called soft gallstones, which don't show up on sonograms, they don't show up on x-rays, they only show up through endoscopy. And the soft gallstones plugged his pancreas, turned it into Swiss cheese, and he was dead within 3 days. God waited for him to come back, and then he was gone. And Lou, I mean, I know that's a worst case scenario for you coming back, but he's keeping you alive. Maybe for that purpose. And maybe he's going to beat the crap out of you until you're on your knees. But he loves you. And he wants you. So, anyways, that's going to be it for today. Hope you all have a... Oh, wait, no, it's only Thursday. We still have tomorrow. All right. This was a little too emotional for me on the internet. So, I'm going to... One day it will be too late. That's true. Thanks, everybody, for being here. God bless you all, and we'll see you on tomorrow's exciting episode of Cross Examinations.